What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Intergalactic Outlaw, and today we're going to be talking about Trigun. Now, some of you might be confused because we've talked about Trigun before, but I wanted to remake this and make it in a more in-depth video, not only following Vash and Wolfwood, but also following Knives. Once again, I won't really be diving into the latest iteration of Trigun, due to the fact, one, that I haven't seen it, and due to the fact, two, that visually it just wasn't my thing. So I'm going to be talking about the original anime Trigun that debuted in 1998. Is it me, or is everything getting darker in today's world? Now, this isn't your regular doom or nihilistic point, but I'm asking about how hope is seen in today's world. In today's world, especially for the people born from the 90s and probably about 2004, hell, even a little bit beyond that. Not only are those people in that range that I mentioned earlier adults, but some of them are either in their early 20s or, if you're born in the early 90s, in their mid 30s. For a lot of this age range, we see trends that weren't common for people in the past, such as waiting longer to have children, waiting longer to buy a house, or finding oneself often lonely and isolating. And as a few years ago, this might have just been relegated to romance, it seems like it's now in every aspect of our life, including friendship, other forms of companionship, and people are just constantly finding this problem evolve. But in an ever-evolving world riddled with new challenges, how will you be able to get a new job in this AI world? Was college really worth it? Will anyone ever be able to retire before the age of 70 anymore? Is it even really worth saving humanity anymore? Although not all of these questions are tackled in Trigun, the show shows us what it's like to live in a literal wasteland named Planet No Man's Land, or Planet Gunsmoke. In this world and in this society, although it's in the future, people seem to have been teleported back to the past, in this Wild West-like era where lawlessness and chaos are an everyday occurrence. People mostly try to follow the rules and stay out of trouble, or stay as far away from troubled people as possible. However, outside of the everyday threat of becoming outlaw, there is also the fact that the planet runs low on power, food, water, and just barely seems habitable by people. And to come across a lot of these things, such as clean water, is a luxury. Trigun is the story of an infamous gunman known as Vash The Stampede. Vash is often seen joking, laughing, and smiling. His personality on a surface level is very jovial. Underneath his exterior is a complex and mysterious past that unravels as the show goes on. The in-universe world sees Vash as a terrible psychopath capable of destroying entire towns and taking what's left of humanity on this planet. However, when we are introduced to Vash, we're introduced to him shown as quite the opposite of that, and the show even goes on to show something that we aren't aware of, and that it's Vash is very deeply caring and loving, while also having a shadowy side. He can never help but to not harm anyone. He can never help to but not help everyone he comes across. These are just a few things that really speak on the character of Vash the Stampede. Despite these good deeds, the world around Vash would have us believe he's responsible for taking entire cities off the map, and he's even declared a human disaster. It isn't until after that we see that what's actually transpired, we understand what's really going on. When we're finally given Vash's backstory, we're introduced to his twin brother, who has a very metal name, Knives Millions. Knives, whose personality is psychotic and insane, and who would unalive entire groups of humans at his own will, and his anti-human sentiment are actually responsible for these very many calamities blamed on Vash. Some might even call Vash a fraud for not really being about that destruction life. Knives, however, forcefully transforms Vash's arm into a weapon of mass destruction that he and Vash can utilize to destroy entire cities and even make holes in the moons if they had a sibling dispute. If you've ever thought to yourself you were having a hard time with one of your siblings, well, luckily Knives isn't your brother. Vash is very honest, and he's a very do-good guy. We know he tries his best to save people, much to his brother's dismay. We know Knives, having the opposite philosophy to Vash, sees humans as inferior, and as some kind of plague that needs to be wiped out. So when Vash is seen trying to stop his brother from going on a maniac crave genocide, his brother loses his mind and turns to Vash and turns his arm into an angel arm. And when Vash points it at his brother, he yells again, "You do this to me?" His brother feels it's the ultimate betrayal, and in a sense, it is the ultimate betrayal. But as a do-good guy, Vash can in all good consciousness let his brother take away the lives of innocent people. Using his angel arm, Vash and his brother, or rather Vash's brother, forces Vash to make this land a lot more uninhabitable for the few human beings living here. So you can understand why, even if it isn't Vash's fault, the fact that he can even wield this power on a planet like Gunsmoke puts fear in the hearts of everyone he knows and loves and everyone he meets. And the economy of hope is at an all-time low on this planet. Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher, wrote extensively on a wide range of philosophical topics, but his works did not directly focus on the concept of hope. His ideas on hope can be derived from his broader discussion on human nature, virtue, and the ideal state. These are found in a number of his works. Today, in a few points, we'll be discussing his point of view and contrasting that with things as they transpire in Trigun. In his dialogues, Plato often explores the relationship between knowledge, virtue, and the ideal forms of governance. Hope, as an emotional state or expectation, is typically related to these themes, but it's not explicitly addressed. Let's get into knowledge and hope. Plato places a strong emphasis on knowledge and reason. In the Republic, he explores the idea of the philosopher kings, those who are enlightened and possess knowledge in the ideal forms. For Plato, true knowledge is essential for guiding a just and virtuous society. Vash, having true knowledge of the systems of this world and plants, lead him to not only create a better world for the people who live here, but also repower their plants. This often leads to the restoration of power and water and rejuvenates entire towns on a planet desolate of life. We see this, his knowledge of the system, not only impacting the people physically, but also emotionally, with a woman who tries to unalive him, and she sees his face and remembers when she was a child she saw this face before. This allows her to have an emotional resolution. Presumably she stops trying to sabotage people's towns in order to provoke a mystical myth of Vash The Stampede, but we know that that was really set up by Knives. Plato also discusses virtue in many dialogues such as Meno and Phaedo. He believes that living a virtuous life can lead to fulfillment and happiness. Hope, in this context, could be seen as a positive force if it encourages people to pursue virtue and justice. In this, we see an example of not only Vash, but Nicholas, who is a traveling priest. Much different from the priests as we imagine them. He carries a cross, which is an allegory in and of itself, but he also lives in a way to encourage hope, almost as a permanent reminder of their repentance, as he goes around helping others like Vash, and can be seen with the human flows of occasionally being hesitant and ready to kill, but also wanting to help others. There is an internal struggle within his core values, as when he is ready to take a life of those he says are unredeemable, he's quite ready. In him, we see much more of a human struggle, where we see someone who's capable and willing to overcome human emotion and anger, but also being forced with that reality that this is a bad world and bad people do deserve punishment, so what do you do with them? We see a very relatable and internal struggle in Nicholas Wolfwood's. In the Republic, Plato describes his vision of an ideal state, ruled by the philosopher king, those who understand the forms. In this context, hope could represent the aspiration to create a just society. However, Plato's skepticism about human nature might lead him to caution against unfounded hope, without the foundation of knowledge and reason. This, I believe, can go more along the lines of Knives. Knives believes this world would be better without humans, and that plants should be the ones in charge of the world. From this point of view, this world would be a plant world, and humans are just recklessly living in it. Much like Plato, you could say Knives is very skeptical about human nature, and in his ideal world, the plants lead as kings. He does this in several ways. By continuously challenging Vash from his outlook and in his perspective to see how humans behave when the chips are turned, and when they're deprived of resources, forcing Vash to choose between the life of his companions and the lives of random strangers, which is a really heavy weight on Vash, and he constantly tests Vash's constitution and philosophy against his own will, with some of the ultimate irony being that the plants are actually the reason why humans can inhabit this earth. Now, he is often shown to be merciless and careless to human life, but to his own evil points, the plants do bring power, water, and life to no man's land. Had he had his way, he would probably be a tyrannical ruler, and he would be treating the humans very crappy on this planet. Now, with that being said, it would be horrible to live through a Knives regime. However, through a lot of the horrible situations, Vash seems to come out on top and prove to his brother humans can exist in what he would say is love and peace. These characters, Vash, Knives, and Nicholas, all walk different but similar paths, with Vash constantly choosing the good, but being seen as evil or a force of nature, or even a human disaster. Nicholas as a traveling preacher who offers redemption, but also deems certain people as irredeemable, and Knives not being seen or known at all, but his effects and his decisions are known and felt by everyone. There are many forms of hope, not only the ones for the humans, but also the ones for the plants. One side being seen in Vash and the other being seen in Knives, while Nicholas shows us what a human who deals with both sides can go through, and the struggle that they can develop. With that, what is truly good and what is truly evil. As Naoki would say, none of these men are here to fit in this world, but they just want to make a difference. But hey, maybe they're just plucking notes in the symphony. Remember to subscribe, like, and comment if you liked. Until next time, peace.